I just lost it, and I kicked my amp over, and I was like, I'm done. And I had like my 74 Les Paul like in the air, and Pete like slow motion movie style. I was like, no, like grabbed the guitar out of my hand, and I don't really remember any of this, but I woke up like in the hotel on the floor, and Pete going, so you still quit rock and roll? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, so last night, like at Waffle House, you said you quit rock and roll. I was like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't hang out at the Paramount Lounge anymore.
Misguided bravery, the world will see on screens, but in my sleep I'm falling.
Hello, welcome to 3 Gigs, the podcast that tells the stories of 3 shows that have had a profound effect on a performer's life and career. Their first show, their best show, and their worst show. I'm your host, Dominic Davey, and today our guest is Jeff Dean from Airstream Futures and Dead Ending. This episode of 3 Gigs is brought to you by FreshCleanTees.com. It works like a shave club, but they send you t-shirts, super awesome t-shirts. And they have a special offer for all the listeners of 3 Gigs. Save 20% off your first order by going to FreshCleanTees.com and entering the coupon code GIG at checkout. That's FreshCleanTees.com with offer code GIG. Jeff Dean is a punk rock musician and recording engineer based out of Chicago, Illinois. He's kind of a punk rock mercenary, and is best known for playing guitar in The Bomb and Noise by Numbers. But in addition to these bands, he currently also plays in All Eyes West, Explode and Make Up, and most recently, both in hardcore punk rock supergroup Dead Ending and punk and indie rock band Airstream Futures. He's also been involved with bands like Certain People I Know, The Story So Far, Tomorrow's Gone, Klingons Down, 4 Star Alarm, and Zero and Trust. And that's only the ones I know about. To call this man prolific would be an understatement. So with 2 new records out, Airstream Futures' Spiral Infernal on Paper and Plastic, and Dead Ending's Shoot the Messenger on Alternative Tentacles Records, he stopped by to tell me a few stories from his many adventures, including his first show ever.
Well, I guess it would be the first band I was in, Tomorrow's Gone. The very, very first show I played was in the middle of the desert between some mountains, that was like in this weird place that was between Boulder City and Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
So
out there.
Yeah.
That's where where you were?
Well, I grew up in Vegas.
Okay.
So it was, that was like kind of like what you did back then, was play in the desert, because there was no clubs really, and no one wanted to put you up in any like the fancier places. So it's like everyone just, grabbed generators and just had desert shows.
Dude, the very first time I ever played, I think out there, I think I was in Henderson, and it was a castle-looking building.
I know exactly where you played.
Yeah. It was clearly
like an old arcade kind of place.
Yeah, and it was like, where is it? I don't think I've ever played.
That's in like 1997 or something.
Yeah, it's 96, 98, 97, 98,
okay.
Somewhere. Yeah, honestly, I think it was with the Happy Campers, I want to say. I
remember that band.
Yeah, I think that's who it played with. But I don't think I've ever played the same venue twice in Las Vegas. So, yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all either, at least for that era,
So you played out in the middle of the desert, like just
Yeah,
out.
I didn't start playing guitar until I was 19. Like I picked it up super late.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I was going to play guitar. I got one from my friend, and I picked it up super quick, and then I'd say about 6 months later, I was playing in Tomorrow's Gone, and it like I knew those, like Lance the singer and Fred the drummer. They both lived in Boulder City, and I used to skate with those dudes and stuff. And I think through the grapevine, like Lance had heard that like I was playing guitar or bass or something, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, I forget what the dude's name was that was playing guitar, but he was like this metal dude, and he bailed out, and they're like, hey, you know, you want to play bass? And I'm like, well, I don't have a bass. I just have a guitar that I just got. And then Lance is like, well, I wanted to play guitar, but I guess I could stay on bass, you know, if you want to come out and play. And so I started jamming with those dudes, and I feel like it was only like a couple weeks after we started playing that they set up this show. It's still like, I mean, Vegas back then, I mean, that was like, it must have been like 1993 or something. It was just chaos at those desert shows, you know, kids just going nuts. And I mean, I might be mistaken, but I feel like after we got done playing, my friend Anthony and this dude Wes that went by, everyone used to call him Wes T. They had like this whole like rap thing that they did for like this rap freestyle they did after we played for like 15 minutes, and Lance and Fred like just played like this body count over and over. I mean, it was insane. It was absolutely ridiculous, but super, super funny and fun. And then of course I was like, yeah, I love this. Let's play as many shows as we can.
That is so awesome. It's hard to say this without sounding like I'm an old guy, and I'm not trying to be, but I do feel like that when I hear people tell me stories about shows that are their first shows that are more recent versus the shows that were going on in the 90s, I have to say I feel like the 90s shows were crazier, because they would like, the bands would never be alike. They were nothing like, it would be like a ska band, a metal band, a punk band, and a hardcore band all playing a show in the middle of fucking nowhere, and then everybody loses their minds and goes crazy, and it was like, they were just super fun. And I'm not saying they're not fun now. I'm just like, I don't know. I've talked to a bunch of people, and I feel like there was a craziness going on back then. So it doesn't surprise me when you say like, yeah, it just, everyone went nuts and it was cool.
Well, I mean, growing up in Vegas, it was like, I mean, it was so removed from everything else back then. I mean, granted, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, Bad Religion would come to Hunter's Theater and stuff like that on a regular. So, you know, there were bigger shows going on. But as far as like local, like DIY things, I mean, we had to take to the desert. And, you know, when I remember being so irritated that we had to deal with this stuff. You know, it's like, can't believe we have to go through all this just to play a show, you know, like being like a kid, just mad. Like, I bet if we lived in LA, it'd be easier or someplace else. And looking back now, it's like, how fucking incredible is it? It's like, I mean, we played shows in caves, you know? I mean, literally, there's these massive caves on the west side of town, and we throw a generator in one and run the power over to the other one and have shows. And it's like, I mean, it's like, you know, I tell people that, and there's like, their minds are just blown. Like, it's like, you can't even picture it. But I mean, that's what we had to do to play. And I just think back then, it's like the fact that we had to go through all this fucking shit to be able to just play a show, you know? And I mean, it's like, there was constant problems with cops or, you know, fucking Nazis showing up and stuff. I mean, it was dangerous, you know?
Right.
But it's like, it meant so much to be able to do that we'd go through all these things to make it happen. And it's like, that is something I will definitely say is like an 80s and a 90s kind of thing that I mean, I feel weird saying, I mean, maybe that kind of stuff happens still now, but like, I just don't see like I you know, it meant that much that we would go through that stuff, you know?
I was going to ask if you thought that they were still if there were kids out in Vegas were still throwing a generator in one cave and playing in the other, you know, if you think they're still going out there.
Mean, the city's so built up now, I don't even know where anyone would go.
Right.
Like it was funny because Tomorrow's Gone actually did a reunion show a couple of years back for this LVHC festival that they've been doing for the last like 5 years in Vegas, where, you know, they get all the old bands from the 80s and stuff. Like MIA played like this year and the year before, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's this cool festival this guy Danny Breeden makes happen. But so I was out there, you know, a couple of days before the show to jam with everybody. And me and Lance and Fred, we were like driving down just some residential road. And Lance just pulls over to the side of the road. And I'm like, what's up? He's like, dude, it's the caves. And I mean, there's the caves. They're still there, but right at the foot of like this mountain is like, it's just houses forever. And I was just floored because it's like, I mean, it would take, from my mom's house back then, it's like drive like super far out into the desert, take this desert dirt road for like 20 minutes just through the desert to get to these caves. And now the city's so built up that like there's houses like at the foot of this place. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know where anybody would be having desert shows out here now.
That's a good point. That's true. Vegas did like extend its borders like really quickly.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's a crazy thought. Wow.
Well, it was awesome. Now, I mean, at the time, I was bummed, but now looking back, it's like just insane.
Yeah, I think people always have a knack of not appreciating how cool their local scene is while it's happening, and looking back, it becomes way better. That everybody was there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's like definitely more of an innocence to something like that,
Yeah. I can definitely appreciate it more now that the innocence has been throttled out of me over this over the years of a lot of touring and albums. I'm like, back then was pretty cool. It was really cool just to get out of school and go play a show.
Spoken like a bunch of road-worn dudes. Right now.
I know, it's like if we didn't drive the point home that we're not in our 20s, I think we just did.
Okay.
So that was so that was the first show you ever played, and it makes sense that was why you decided like, okay, yeah, this is cool, I'm doing this. But what was a show like where you really felt like everything came together and it was like, oh my god, this is an amazing moment? Like, is there any?
I mean, as far as like beginning to play and like what made me want to do it and stuff like that.
No. I mean, just some of your favorite times of shows. You can tell a couple short ones. You could tell one big one. If there's one standout to you, like in certain bands, like what were moments that you were like, wow, this is awesome?
Well, I mean, you brought up Suicide Machines earlier when we were talking. I'd say it's like 1994, and Tomorrow's Gone played with Suicide Machines in Vegas at the Hunter's Theater. And they had a cassette tape. No one knew who that band was,
Right.
And I remember I was laughing. I'm like, who the fuck is Jack Kevorkian and the Suicide Machines?
I forgot that was the name I first.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
It's so I remember we were sound checking, and Jay had this big blonde afro, and he's like, what's up, man? You like hardcore? And I'm like, yeah. And I had like 7 seconds like written super big across my guitar or something. He's like, you like ska? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, cool. And we ended up just like becoming like super good friends that night. And that was like the first like band I think that had come to town where it was like we really became friends with. And I was just like, okay. I remember like they had all their stuff stuffed in the back of this little minivan. I was like, I didn't know anything about Detroit. And I remember them like leaving that night, like from the show, and just like watching them drive off. And I was just like, wow, okay, like people are doing this. Like I can do this. Like we could do this,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, I just want to go on tour. That's what I want to do. That was like my goal from there on out. And it's funny because then, it's like a year later, like Jay convinced me to move to Detroit to play in that band Cleon's Down with them. And I kind of just never went home from there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I dropped out of college and moved to Detroit. And I'm like, yep, okay, I guess this is what I do now.
Yeah.
So
I know that feeling.
That was a pretty monumental one.
Yeah, that was clearly. That was awesome. So where'd that show happen at? Like, where was it?
It was in which one? It was in Vegas at the Hunter's Theater. It was like
Hunter's Theater. That's
summer '94, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think I have a flyer. I think I have a flyer still from it. Like I was so diligent about keeping flyers from every show that I played back then.
Yeah, I actually have
like 2 years.
Yeah, I have a photo album of the first 2 years worth of Tsunami Bomb shows, and then I have a box with a lot of stuff. But like, I was really good at it at first, and then eventually you're like, okay, now we're playing all the time. That's enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
But
I definitely keep like screened posters from things now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same,
like
same.
I'm like, okay. I've got like all these red posters. My wife's like, where the hell are we gonna put all these in our house? I'm like, I don't know, but they're all getting framed.
I was joking about doing an art show with all the stuff that Alternative Tentacles has, because it's just like all these concerts and all this artwork, all this original artwork.
That's like a museum exhibit.
Yeah, I thought we could do something like that, and like, I think I took Jello aback a little bit when I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe we should do like an art show or something, like an exhibit. And he was like, what? I was like, there's a ton of stuff here. Like, look at all these shows, like posters, screen prints, like.
I mean,
everything.
People would love to see that stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I bet your collection's awesome. It's like, but yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to. I mean, I played in a lot of bands, so there's a lot of really good moments like that have happened along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like. I mean, it's so hard to like narrow it down.
Yeah, because I imagine you've had a lot of really great experiences.
Which is pretty rad to be able to say.
No, that is. It's a great thing to say. Well, I'll help you. I'll help you a little bit. What was one of What was one of the funnest, like, really big shows you played, like a festival or a huge crowd? Like, what was that like? Where did that happen?
I mean, I would say when All Is West, we played 2 shows with Bob Mould. We played 3. We did 2 shows at the Metro in Chicago, and then we played at a First Ave in Minneapolis with them. And that was definitely one for me that was like, whoa. I mean, with him being like one of my guitar heroes and just being like a super cool dude and having us on those shows. But I remember like we went to set up for sound check and like just being on that stage and thinking like, all the Husker Du stuff, replacements, prints, and everything. And I remember looking out at the room like, wow, okay, this is big. This is real big.
Yeah.
I remember at that show, like, I think it was like maybe the 3rd or 4th song in, like my volume pedal went out or something. My amp sounded like it was starting to melt.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a fucking panic attack. I mean, it's like, the place is sold out. Huge. And I don't know how I figured it out, but I was able to like rip the cable out of one thing, plug it into my amp, and I came in like right on the beat, like on this part, and the whole crowd was just like, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like it was like everybody was just like on edge to see like what was going to happen, and then it was like from there on out, it was just like, wow. That was definitely probably one of my favorite shows. And I remember like afterwards, like I was talking to someone backstage, and then I hear someone go, I was like, yeah, the volume pedal went out or something like that. And then I hear this voice, and it's like, what happened with that? And I turn around, and it's Bob Mould, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, dude, you're like my favorite guitar player. I got so caught off guard by it that we were having this total normal conversation about my volume pedal breaking, and then I was like, this realization. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're talking right now. Fuck.
That's so awesome. No, I totally get that. I get that too. All right. This is great stories. I'm gonna give you one more in this category. What's the coolest but most like punk rock show you played where you're like, oh Jesus, this is crazy? We're still in the good category. You don't have to go like, oh, it's punk rock.
Well, I guess this is pretty punk, but not like punk in like a crazy punk way. But like, so I say it was the second time All Is West went over to England. We had a show set up in Nottingham, and this band Amusement Park's on Fire that is from there. That's like one of my all-time favorite bands. And just along the way, we ended up becoming like really good friends and everything. And Mike, like the singer guitarist from that band, like one of my favorite people. And we were having a hard time getting a show there. And he was like, no, I'll get something set up, you know. And that band had been broken up for years.
Yeah.
And we show up to the show, and there's just like the flyer. It's like All Eyes West, and then Amusement Parks on Fire under it. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, yeah, I figured I'd get the band back together for the night to play with you guys. And I was just like, are you kidding me, dude? And it just ended up being like this insane, like just awesome show, and like such a fucking amazing gesture from like such rad people, you know. I was like,
awesome.
I can't even believe I'm seeing this band play again, and I can't believe this is happening tonight. And then it just turned into this epic night where everyone was up until like 8 a.m, you know. Just like there was some point where at someone's house like singing Weezer songs and like jumping off the couches. That was a moment for sure.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's awesome. See, those are great stories. I love them. Those were great stories. Thank you for those. All right. Now let's see what you do with this one. We come to the third part of the show. What is one of the worst, one of or some of the worst shows you've had to play? And they are...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
Well, I'm trying to think of like bad or just bad funny. I think bad funny is probably better.
Okay.
Like, you know, not everyone needs to know about when 4 Star Alarm was on tour and our roadie tried to kill the singer. Like that's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's just bad.
Yeah. My wife reminded me of this one earlier, and I totally forgot about it. It's so bad and so hilarious. I was playing in this band, Explode and Make Up, with Dennis from 88 Fingers Louie, and Pete, who played in The Bomb with me. And it's kind of like a hardcore band, you know. And we played this like weird little bar like on the north side of Chicago. I can't even remember what it was called. But we get there, and I can't remember what the band was that played before us, but there was only probably like 5 people there anyways. And when that band finished, everybody left. So it was just us. There was one power outlet that was in the ceiling. So they were running this power strip from the ceiling, and it's not taped in, so it's just like shaking. Like if anybody's amp moved, like the power would just like turn off, like in the middle of the song. There was no drum rug, so the drums are just sliding all over the place, and it was just so bad. And I remember like Dennis. He just like went nuts, like in the funniest way, like the way like the whoever was like working was like walking around like cleaning up, and Dennis is just like falling behind her, like singing at her, and she's just smiling, but like it's just like, what are you doing? And it was because she was the only person there. And I remember like Tim, our drummer's drums just sliding all over the place, and the power going out every 2 seconds. And I was just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, what is like, going on?
But it was so funny. I wish there would have been like at least like 3 people there so they could have seen just how comical it was. Oh, it was so bad.
It's funny. It's so funny how those nights happen. Like where there's some nights, there's this nights where everything goes wrong. You're just like, oh, kill me. And the other nights where you just can't stop laughing because it's just so ridiculous. But that's a pain that very few people know of, that only musicians know about, musicians in a band, how frustrating it is to have the drums slide all over the place when there's nothing.
I felt so bad for Tim. It looked like he was doing like yoga moves to try to keep playing the kick drum. You know what I mean? It's all fast, so it's like fast kick drum patterns, and I just was like, oh man. There wasn't even like anything to put in front of any of the drums to keep them from moving. It would be like song would start 20 seconds in, the drums are like spread out all over the floor. The power is falling out of the ceiling.
So bad.
But it's like, I mean, you know, you look back and it's hilarious. You know. There's a lot of really ridiculous shows like that.
I think we find ourselves in ridiculous positions, you know, when you play music for a long time, and because like, you know, people see you play a show and it's a great show and it's packed and everyone's like, wow, you know, look at what kind of life they get to live. But they never get to see like when you're playing then the off night where you're like playing to like 10 people, 5 people,
Yeah.
less people, and you're like, or like the one guy in the Tigger costume that's just kind of randomly walked in and he's rolling all over the ground, and you're like, well, this is what my life is like now.
Well, I remember Always West played, I swear, I think it was like Iowa City or something, like, and it was like in the summer, so all college was out or whatever, so there's like no one in this town. And we played this club, and there's literally 2 kids there. And I was just like, this is the worst. I'm like, what are we even doing? But then these 2 kids, they stood up like in front of us the entire time playing and just rocked out. They were so stoked that like anybody was there. Like, I was like, okay, this is kind of like the best show ever at the same time too.
Right.
Like, how rad. Like, it's like, and I was like, okay, let's lay it down. These 2 people are just stoked. So, I mean, I guess there's a certain charm to that stuff too, you know.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe I think about the positive aspects of stuff like that.
We have to be a certain amount of Pollyanna to keep playing music, but yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy.
No, it's not. It's definitely a labor of love. It really is. You do it because I had somebody tell me, Matt Freeman from Rancid once told me, and I'll never forget it, and that's why I name drop him every time, because this is such a perfect thing to say. It's like, we don't play music because we want to. We play music because we have to. And it's like, you just have to, and you do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't imagine doing anything else. You just have to play. You have no choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in your blood, you know?
Yeah, I mean, even the people who say like, "Oh yeah, I don't play anymore," and then I go over their house and it's like they still have their guitar and they're still playing. Like,
yeah,
you still
totally.
played. You still
I mean,
play.
no one really quits.
No.
You know.
Yeah, nobody ever. Very
not
few.
anybody I know.
No. I mean, I know. I'm sure some people have walked away, but like none of the real musicians I know have ever stopped playing. But I'll ask you this: as somebody who tours a lot, somebody who's toured a ton and been in a bunch of bands, has there ever been a town or a city that you just never got a good show in? Like, you just couldn't get? Because for me, it's Bakersfield. I've never played in front of the same amount of people. I've had an
interesting show or two in Bakersfield myself.
I mean, I'm not hating on Bakersfield. If you're listening and you're from Bakersfield, I'm not hating on you. I'm just saying that every time I have played there, in every single band I have ever been in, I have literally played to a different group of 10 people every time. And the one time I thought, oh, now we had it. We were playing with Pennywise. And we played Bakersfield in the top the second floor of an abandoned Montgomery ward, and the bottom floor was all a Mexican swap meet. And upstairs they had set up a stage, and we played, and it was packed. And the crowd was ambiguously disinterested in us when we played. Went crazy for Pennywise, and then when we came back to follow up the show, I still played in front of a whole nother 10 group of people I'd never seen before, and none of them were at the show that we were at with Pennywise. So, I
mean, I've definitely played my share of shows where everyone's like looking at their watches, you know. I'm gonna probably Salt Lake City for me, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, I've got like good friends out there and everything, and I can't say that the shows that I've played are necessarily bad, but it always ends up just seeming to be, like you said, like the same like 8 people.
Right.
And I mean, even even shows that I've played there that are theoretically would be bigger shows with like more popular bands. It just, I mean, maybe I've always just played the wrong dates there, or like. People don't come out on Tuesdays or something. I don't know.
Right,
like,
right.
I feel like every show that I've played there has just been kind of like, well, I mean, it's on the way to San Francisco, so,
Guess we'll do it. Yeah, no, I totally know. I've actually had some good luck in Salt Lake. I mean, it's been over a decade since I've actually played there, so that's kind of due for us to go back. But
I mean, every time I've played there, everyone that's actually showed up, like the handful of people, they've all been really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
But it's just never seemed to like hit. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah. No, that's better than Bakersfield for me. Like, I feel like every time I played there, people have been like, you guys are okay. Like nobody booed, but everyone was like, yeah, sure. Like they just, and that's in multiple bands, man. Like they just do not like what I sell. So
Same. I'm not even just talking like one that's been like pretty much every time I've played there in the last like 15 years. So
yeah, nothing but love.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Some cities love I
mean,
just couldn't capture.
I like my friends that live there. They're awesome. So I guess it's worth stopping in to see them, but
That's hilarious. Well,
I'll never have a good show in Salt Lake City ever now.
now they're like, oh, well, now we're not going.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, totally.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think. I think there's like two other shows that come to mind when you're saying like the bad shows, and they're both bomb shows, and they're both like on the way to the fest one year, because it's always such a nightmare trying to tour down the fest because everybody's touring down, you know.
You're not the first person to say that. Actually, who just said that? War on Women told me that same thing. They said they love the fest, but it's hard to get down there. It's hard to tour that way because everybody's going.
We played in, I feel like it was Chattanooga, this one show, and I thought it was like it was going to be a club. It ended up being like somebody's weird like basement. It was like this weird house, this weird basement, and the basement was so tiny that Jeff Pizzotti could barely fit in it because, you know, he's like super tall. So he was like kind of like hunched over, like being in the basement.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, there was like, I don't know, maybe like 10 kids there, and everyone kind of seemed indifferent to like us even playing. So, I thought this was pretty rad, and it's like I even wonder if like any of the kids even knew what was happening. But so we're sitting there, and I was like, man, what are we gonna do? I was like, you know what, dude? Let's just play a whole set of Naked Ray Gun songs right now. if Pizzotti's like, yeah, okay, why not? And I was like, when's the last time these songs were played in a basement, dude? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I think we played one bomb song and then did like 8 Ray Gun songs. And I was like, man, I wonder if any of these kids even know what they're seeing right now, you know?
That is so funny.
So it was kind of like we just made the best of it. But I mean, I remember there's just like a ton of weird stuff. Like I was like, yeah, Chattanooga's a weird town.
Yeah. That's funny.
So
yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, if I think it was the next day we played in Atlanta, and on the heels of that, we get to like Atlanta like super early. We play this place, the Drunken Unicorn, and it's like directly across the street from the Claremont Lounge, which is this ridiculously awesome and insane place. It's like it's like punk dive bar strip club kind of thing. And apparently, like Gigi Allen used to live upstairs in the hotel upstairs. I don't know. It's nuts, but it's super fun. But so we got there at like 2 p.m, and loading wasn't until 8. So me and Mike and Anthony, our roadie, just went to the Claremont Lounge and just got completely ripped, like all day, like drinking like Jägermeister and all this stuff. And I don't really remember playing the show too much. It was apparently like super, super terrible. I think there was like 5 people there. And then I think it was like 4th song in, like Mike was like, I'm done with this. And just left the stage. And then this kid's like, I know all the songs. I'll play drums. And I was like, okay. And then like, I guess like, I have a very vague memory of this. Like the kid's like, okay, let's start playing some songs. And we started playing something, and Mike came running back from the bar. I was like, what are you doing? Get out from behind there. Kick the kid out. I think we played Rap Patrol or something by Ray Gun. I just lost it, and I kicked my amp over, and I was like, I'm done. And I had like my 74 Les Paul like in the air and Pete like slow motion movie style. I was like, no. Like grabbed the guitar out of my hand, and I don't really remember any of this, but I woke up like in the hotel on the floor, and Pete going, so you still quit rock and roll? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, so last night, like at Waffle House, you said you quit rock and roll. I was like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't hang out at the Claremont Lounge anymore.
I like the idea of you like drunkenly going to Waffle House and saying like, "That's it, I quit rock and roll." Not just the band. You're just like, "I quit the rock and roll."
I'm just glad Pete didn't let me smash my Les Paul. It would have really sucked.
That would have been really a bummer. I always remember. I remember when I was younger and I saw that picture of the Clash, that famous album cover with where he's Paul Simeon is smashing his bass, and I always thought to myself, I was like, wow, that bass must have really, really been shitty for him to do that. And then when I went to the Music Hall of Fame, it was there, the bass,
is it
all shattered, and I was like, what the hell? How he kept it? What's up with that? Like, how I couldn't believe he still had it. And then I remember then finally seeing an interview with him where he said like, yeah, I was really drunk and I was just really mad and I picked up the bass and I just started smashing it at the end of the song, and he goes, it all finishes out and everyone's screaming and cheering and it was all done, and then the lights go down and I looked down and I went, I just smashed my bass. And he goes, all I could think of was like, maybe they could fix it. So he put it all in the case and he kept it because he was like drunkenly thinking like, we could probably fix it. And yeah, he's like, at least
That's
it got
incredible.
He goes, it broke my heart. He goes, I couldn't look at it. I got a new bass the next day and my heart was broken. And he goes, I couldn't look at it and I kept it. I couldn't bear to throw it away. And so now it's in the Hall of Fame and it's a famous photo, but I smashed my favorite bass.
How insane is that though? That's awesome.
I thought, it's a great story, but I remember looking at it going, wow, that bass must have sucked. And then I saw it smashed like 30 years later, and I'm like, oh, he must have really been
like a 71 T bass, like all super nice.
Yeah, it was just literally shattered. Like there was nothing left. He smashed the crap out of it. But yeah, so it's a good thing that he stopped. You would have woken up the next day going, I smashed my guitar.
They were like, no. Well, there wouldn't have been buying a new guitar in my future at that point, so that would have been like, oh, I guess we turn around and go home.
And scene. That's it. For us, we're done. Yeah. I smashed the only guitar I have. That'd be funny. Well, that would have been funny, but I understand.
Well, it would have been funny for everybody else. Not for me when I woke up the next day.
Information wants to be free, but governments don't want it to be.
You've been listening to Jeff Dean, guitarist for Airstream Futures and Dead Ending, as well as All Eyes West and Explode Makeup, and a whole bunch of other bands. You know what? Just Google him. It'll save time, and all the bands are awesome. You won't be sorry, I promise. You want to find out more about Airstream Futures? Find them at facebook.com/Airstream Futures. And for more on Dead Ending, check out their Facebook at facebook.com/Dead Ending. If you want to find out more about 3 Gigs, check out our website at 3gigspodcast.com. You'll find a bunch of stuff there, all the episodes we have, including bonuses, as well as live footage of both the bands that Jeff's in, and I think you'll find it's worth it. You can also find us on our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram just by searching 3 Gigs. Give us a follow and let us know what you think of the show. Our theme music for this episode was Dreams of Narrow Wings from the album Spiral Infernal by Airstream Futures that's out now on Paper and Plastic Records. And we're closing with Shoot the Messenger by Dead Ending from the album Shoot the Messenger, also out now from Alternative Tentacles Records. I hope you enjoyed the show. My name is Dominic Davey. This has been 3 Gigs, and I'll see you next time. Still there? Rad. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. So here's the thing. My band, Tsunami Bomb, is returning for a very special show at the Bottom of the Hill in San Francisco, California on Saturday, February 17th. And now this is the closest thing we've had to a hometown show in a long time, and we're really excited to be sharing the stage with the Atom Age and Dirty Denim. Both are incredibly powerful, awesome bands from San Francisco, and it's going to be great. Tickets are on sale right now at tsunamibomb.net and thebottomofthehill.com for only $12. And if you're in the greater Bay Area, come on down and say hi, and hit me up about the show, and let me know what you think. If you aren't in the Bay Area, no worries. We've got some more dates coming up around the U.S., so stay tuned. We'll have more details soon. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you at the show. If you listen to this podcast, chances are you like music. And if you like music, you probably wear a lot of t-shirts. Or at the very least know someone who does. Well, why not get brand new, blank, fresh, clean t-shirts sent directly to you? Well, you can. FreshCleanTees.com works like a shave club, but instead of razors, they send you super soft, affordable t-shirts. And getting it all going is easy. You choose between monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly delivery options, answer a few questions about your favorite styles, your size, and what colors you like, and you're good to go. Fresh Clean Tees likes 3 gigs so much, they have a special offer for all of our listeners. You can head over to freshcleantees.com right now and use promo code GIG for 20% off your very first order. That's promo code GIG at checkout and get 20% off your first order. Now, I love the t-shirts they sent me, and I know you'll love yours. So head over to freshcleantees.com right now and use order code GIG while you can.